For more than 85 years, The Wizard of Oz has been this untouchable symbol of childhood magic, right? A beautiful Technicolor dream. But what if I told you that behind the yellow brick road and those ruby slippers, there's a story so dark, so full of pain, that some people believe it left a real curse in its wake? Well, let's pull back the curtain and see what's really there. So, what even is this Oz curse? Well, the whole conversation is blowing up again because of the new Wicked movie. Fans are really concerned about the star, Ariana Grande, and her health, and it's sparking these fears that the dark legacy of Oz is somehow reaching through time to haunt a whole new generation. To get why people are so worried, you have to go back to the beginning. You see, the connection everyone's making is between Ariana Grande and the original Dorothy, the one and only Judy Garland. What Judy Garland went through on that 1939 set was so unbelievably awful that it set off a lifetime of tragedy for her. And when you really start to look at the details, well, you start to understand why the word curse might not be an exaggeration at all. Okay, to really get the horror of it all, you have to understand the pressure cooker they were in. We're talking the late 1930s. MGM Studios was in this massive fight to be the king of Hollywood, and they had one single goal, and they were going to achieve it no matter what it took. See, Disney had just blown everyone's minds with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So MGM went out, bought the rights to the classic book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and decided they were going to make something bigger, more magical, and way more profitable. But that whole at-any-cost attitude, it created this ruthless, incredibly dangerous set where the actual people, the human beings, were seen as less important than the final movie. And believe me, that cost was paid almost completely by the cast. I mean, the stories of what these actors suffered through are literally the stuff of nightmares. This wasn't just a couple of unfortunate accidents. No, this was a pattern of abuse and suffering. So let's break it down actor by actor. Let's start with the Tin Man. Now, he was originally played by an actor named Buddy Ebsen. His trip down the yellow brick road was cut very short. Not by some witch, but by the makeup that was supposed to bring his character to life. The negligence here is it's breathtaking. The makeup wasn't paint, it was pure aluminum dust, caked on him every single day. And of course, he breathed it in, it coated his lungs. He started waking up in the middle of the night, screaming from these violent cramps, unable to catch his breath. He ends up in the hospital for 2 weeks. And how does the studio respond? While he's in there, literally fighting for his life, they fire him. They just hire a replacement, Jack Haley. And get this, they give Haley a safer aluminum paste instead of the dust, and he ends up with a severe eye infection. Unbelievable. And the agony just kept coming. Burt Lahr, who played the Cowardly Lion, had to wear a costume made of real lion skin that weighed about 90 pounds. And he had to do it under these scorching hot studio lights with basically no air. Meanwhile, Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow, had this prosthetic mask glued so tightly to his face that it left deep, permanent lines etched into his skin that he had for the rest of his life. But maybe the most terrifying story of all belongs to Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West. You know that scene where she vanishes from Munchkinland in a puff of smoke and fire? Well, that stunt went wrong. Horribly, horribly wrong. The trapdoor that was supposed to drop her to safety didn't open fast enough. She was engulfed in flames. She got second and third degree burns on her face and hands. The studio's first reaction was basically nothing. She had to call a friend herself just to get to a hospital. Weeks later, when she finally comes back, they ask her to do another fire scene. She, of course, refused, so they just brought in her stunt double, who was also severely burned. And that double's compensation for her injuries? A one-time payment of just $35. You see, the danger was just constant. Even her famous green makeup was toxic. It was a copper-based paint so poisonous that Margaret Hamilton had to live on an all-liquid diet, which she drank through a straw just so she wouldn't accidentally swallow any of it. It was so potent, it literally stained her skin green for weeks after they were done filming. But right at the center of this whole storm of abuse was a 16-year-old girl, Judy Garland. And as you can see from this timeline, her exploitation didn't just start with Oz. It started when she was 2 years old, when her own mother started giving her pet pills to perform and sleeping pills to knock her out. By the time she signed with MGM at 14, she was already stuck in this horrible cycle of abuse. And the studio, they would perfect that cycle into a horrifying science. This is what the studio executives, including the head of MGM, called her behind her back. A 16-year-old girl that they were supposed to be turning into a star. And this is how they talked about her. This disgusting, dehumanizing view, in their minds, justified the absolute total control they took over every single part of her life and her body. This wasn't just typical Hollywood pressure. This was a system. It was designed for total control. They put a teenager on a diet of black coffee, chicken soup, and 80 cigarettes a day just to kill her appetite. To make her look younger, they bound her chest and squeezed her into these painful corsets. They fed her amphetamines, pep pills to keep her working for up to 3 days straight without a break, and then they'd give her barbiturates to force her to sleep. They literally engineered a lifelong drug addiction before she was even an adult. In this culture of danger, it wasn't just for the stars. The entire set was basically a minefield of hazards and exploitation. It really shows you a studio system that had a chilling, total disregard for human life. I mean, just look at this. You know that famous scene in the poppy field when the snow starts falling? Do you have any idea what they used to create that magical snow? Pure 100% chrysotile asbestos, a known deadly carcinogen. They were just sprinkling it out of sacks right on top of the actors. The lack of basic safety it's just mind-boggling. The exploitation was financial too. As the main star of the film, Judy Garland was paid $500 a week. Her male co-stars, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, they each made $3,000 a week, 6 times more. Here's the kicker. Her dog, Toto, earned $125 a week. That's more than many of the human actors who played the Munchkins. The set itself was also completely chaotic. There were reports that the actors playing the Munchkins were involved in these wild, drunken parties that led to police being called. And there were claims of harassment. Now, it's also really important to clear up a famous urban legend you might have heard. That rumor about an actor hanging themselves in the background of a scene, it's completely false. The shape you see in the forest is actually one of the large, exotic birds that the studio brought in to make the set look more fantastical. So, after all that suffering, all that pain and abuse, surely the movie was a huge hit that made it all worth it, right? Nope, not even close. The tragedy just got deeper after the camera stopped rolling. This is the incredible irony of it all. After all that human cost, The Wizard of Oz was a box office bomb when it came out in 1939. It was the end of the Great Depression, and families just didn't have money for an expensive fantasy movie. The film didn't become the icon we know today until almost 20 years later, when it was finally shown on TV. For Judy Garland, there was no happy ending waiting over the rainbow. The addiction cycle that MGM built for her just spiraled completely out of control. As you can see, she suffered a nervous breakdown. She attempted to take her own life several times. The very thing that made her a global star was also the thing that was, very literally, killing her. 47. That's how old Judy Garland was when she died from an accidental overdose. A direct, tragic result of a system of abuse that started when she was a toddler and was perfected on the set of what was supposed to be the most magical movie of all time. And that brings us right back to today, and back to the concerns around Wicked. You see, the story of Oz isn't just some grim Hollywood history lesson, it's a cautionary tale. It's about the real, human cost of our entertainment. And it forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. After all this time, has the fundamental profit-at-all-costs machine of Hollywood really changed all that much?